Hi everyone! Thank you for joining us on another episode of Remarkable Spirit Memories of a Medium. My name is Gabrielle Gardner and I'm a medium. This means that I see, feel, and hear the souls of those who are no longer residing in a physical body, or in more traditional terms, they have died. Death as I have come to know it most definitely is not the end. It is simply the turning of a page after completing a chapter. Over the course of these shows, I would like to tell you about some of the most remarkable souls that I have met in this work. And I would like to share their even more remarkable stories with you. Today I will be telling you about my time with a remarkable soul named Sam. I met Sam about a year and a half ago, and the way in which we met was unique. It was much different than many of the other souls that I meet. He hadn't recently passed, he wasn't in the in-between space, he didn't really need anything at all. He was fine. But he did want to share something. He was a soul in spirit who had transitioned to the non-physical about 10 years prior to the time that I met him. He had crossed, and again, he was totally fine. He was in the place after this place. So at first, I was confused as to why one morning I walked out into the living room and he was sitting there on the floor, cross-legged. He was just sitting there, like he was waiting, and I didn't know why. But I went and got my coffee and I sat down there on the floor across from Sam. And I just waited. Not knowing what was about to come would be another life-changing conversation with Spirit. I only sat there with Sam for about an hour, but what he shared changed my life. The way that Sam shared this was by way of spiritual download, which is just a big transference of information from one soul's consciousness to another. But that hour has stuck with me for a year and a half, and I truly believe it will be with me for the rest of my life. Sam was and is a spectacular, vibrant, glimmering, and shining soul. In body, Sam was goofy, and he was silly and creative. And he did everything he could to hide his pain so that he could be there to help others through their tough times. Sam loved film and acting, and he had an eye for angles and lighting, and he knew how to make everything just a little bit more beautiful. Sam was a visionary. Sam was hopeful and kind and full of life. Sam could make anyone laugh, and he would give anyone a hug. He loved people exactly as they were. But Sam didn't get that in return. Sam was only 16 years old when he died. Sam was only a child when someone who had been hardened by this world made Sam feel like something was wrong with him. Sam, who was so full of light and joy, was hurt by two people whose hearts were cold. Two people who said that how and who Sam loved was wrong. And it wasn't. It wasn't wrong. There isn't a time or a place or a reality or a world in which who and how Sam loved was or ever will be wrong. That sweet soul did everything right. So as I sat there on the living room floor with my coffee, Sam was an open book, and he shared all about his life, especially his childhood. Sam grew up in a very conservative traditional household. His mom was a stay-at-home mom who loved Sam very much. But parts of Sam made her uncomfortable. She was reserved and quiet and held everything close to her chest. She was closed off to anything or anyone who was different. As a young child, Sam was loud and he was vibrant. and he loved bright colors and singing and dancing, and he wore his heart on his sleeve. Sam's dad was a hardworking man. He was a laborer by trade, and he had been a laborer from the first time that he could work. He believed that a man is defined by his work skills, effort, and ethics. Sam's dad was also afraid of parts of Sam. At an early age, Sam's parents began to try to change him. They told him that he needed to be quieter, he needed to go to church, he needed to play baseball, he needed to sit still, he needed to cut his hair short, he needed to wear clothes that were less colorful, he needed to be anything other than who he truly was. And then Sam began to change himself and hide himself to try to make his parents happy, to try to make them love him. But this created a deep wound in Sam, and he began to feel inadequate and to have anxiety. He was nervous and felt overwhelmed when he was at home. He tried to pretend to like things that he didn't like, just so his parents would love him. In middle school, Sam met friends who understood him. He also found that there were teachers who supported his creativity and art skills and love of dancing. At this point in the download, my consciousness was pulled back to sitting with Sam. And I said, "Sam, they were wrong." He laughed and smiled and said, "Duh, I know that they were." He said, "I'm good, keep watching. This is important." I was then pulled into more of his experience. When Sam was 14 years old, he met a friend who told him that he didn't need to try to earn his dad's love. For the sake of privacy, I've changed his friend's name to Eric. Eric told Sam that that wasn't right, which Sam knew, but he loved his dad and always thought that he could return to how they had been when he was younger, which was closer. But it just never got any better. They seemed to grow more and more distant as Sam came into his own. At school, Sam began spending recess time with Eric, and they began eating lunch together every day. The two made the leap from middle school to high school together, where Sam secretly joined the theater club again with his best friend. The two became inseparable. And one day, his best friend said he would like Sam to meet his family. Sam hesitated but agreed, and his life was changed by Eric's parents. As he walked through the door for dinner, Sam was embraced in a warm hug by Eric's mom. And then he was given an enthusiastic handshake by Eric's dad. The warmth was just emanating off of them. And after introductions, Eric took Sam by the hand and he led him into the kitchen where everything was being cooked. Sam was surprised at first by Eric's touch, and then it all sunk in. He paused and looked down at their linked hands, and he looked up at Eric, who smiled, and then he leaned in and kissed Sam on the cheek. Sam was shocked, and then he suddenly made sense of it all. And in that night, his life changed. That was a night of happiness for Sam. That was the night that Sam's best friend became his boyfriend. And Eric's parents showed Sam so much love in that house. They showed him that love does not need to be earned, and that Sam deserved to be celebrated. Sam and Eric dated openly in high school and spent most of their weekends at Eric's house. But every night Sam came home, he was treated with silence and disappointment. His dad criticized nearly everything that he did, and just oozed hatred that was never explained. And his mom essentially ignored him, neither ever telling him why their love for him had suddenly all but disappeared. Sam was never able to share any of the good parts of his life with his parents. And while he never came out or talked about Eric, it became the elephant in the room, and Sam was left feeling like he couldn't or shouldn't talk about his boyfriend. This left a gnawing, hollow space in Sam that seemingly couldn't be fixed by any amount of love from anyone else. At 16 years old, as a junior in high school, Sam had become deeply depressed, feeling like a failure to his parents, who would hardly even look at him. Eric finally confronted Sam and told him that he needed to stop hiding and that he needed to just tell them the truth. It couldn't be any worse than it already was. Sam thought about it for a few days, and then he agreed. He was tired of hiding and pretending. Now the rest is what Sam shared with me from the final day of his life. Sam had finally worked up the courage to tell his parents. Eric had offered to be there with him, but Sam said that he needed to do it on his own. All day, Sam ran through different ways to tell his parents that he was gay, and that Eric was not just his best friend, but his boyfriend. He stood in front of the mirror in his bedroom practicing. Finally, after a few nerve-wracking hours, it was dinner time, and Sam showed me this part of the download as if I was sitting at the table with them. So, the three of them, Sam and his parents, were sitting there around the table silently eating. They were all looking down at their plates, and Sam took a deep breath. His hands were shaking, and he looked at his parents and said, "Mom and Dad, I need to tell you something." Neither of them looked up. Sam said, "Mom and Dad, this is important." And they looked at him without saying anything. And Sam took a deep breath. He says, "You know Eric, you met him. He's my best friend." And then he paused and he said, "He's also my boyfriend. And I love him." Sam's mom put her hand over her mouth and just closed her eyes. You know, and Sam hadn't expected total acceptance, but he was hoping for indifference. And after a long pause, Sam's dad just set his fork down and he put his elbows up on the table and clasped his hands, and he just stared ahead, for a few minutes, and Sam just sat there and waited. And then his dad let out a big sigh and turned and looked Sam in the eye, and he said, "You're disgusting. You disgust me, and I will not have someone like you living under my roof." He stood up and he threw his chair back and he lunged for Sam, and he grabbed him by the shirt collar, and he pulled Sam down the hallway, and Sam began to cry and try to push his dad away, and his mom just sat there at the table. His dad ripped open the front door and shoved Sam out, and Sam fell back onto the yard, and he just laid there shaking and crying as his dad screamed at him, screamed, "You're disgusting. How dare you do this to me and your mom? Don't you dare step foot back in this house." And then he turned around and slammed the door. And then my awareness was pulled back to Sam and I sitting, across from each other in my living room, and Sam just looked at me. And he wouldn't share the rest of that, but the guides did that Sam had not been able to handle his parents' reaction. And on that night, he felt so overwhelmed that he took his life. His parents' reaction had led him to do something that he couldn't undo. And at 16 years old, Sam took his life because someone incapable of real love told him that who he loved was wrong. And, I began to cry. Sitting there with Sam, and Sam smiled. And he said, "I made a mistake." These are Sam's words. He said, "I made a mistake. I made someone who was cruel believe that I was unworthy of love. My dad was scared of me, and I let him scare me. I let him dictate my worth. I let him convince me that there was something wrong with me." Sam then showed me a series of images. First was an image of the angels surrounding Sam at the time he sat alone and ended his life after his dad had kicked him out of the house. Then there was an image of Sam in spirit in a beautiful bright light with his grandmother and grandfather, and they were wrapping their arms around his shoulders. And then as he stood there with his grandparents, he was surrounded by numerous other people who were all there to welcome him. And they were the souls whose lives had also ended too soon because of who they loved. This was a collective spirit healing for Sam. And it was a celebration of who he is. Then there was an image of Sam in spirit sitting next to Eric and Eric's parents at his funeral. And Sam's dad didn't even attend his own funeral. Then there was another image. It was Sam sitting next to Eric, who was laying on the grass next to a headstone in a cemetery. And Eric's heart was broken. Then there was an image of Sam in spirit sitting next to Eric years later, as Eric met a new boyfriend in college. My consciousness was pulled back to my living room as I was sitting across from Sam. Sam said I shouldn't have done what I did, but I didn't see another way in that moment. It wasn't right. He said, tell them that it wasn't right. Tell others none of it was right. What my parents did wasn't right. What I did wasn't right, but I'm okay. I nodded and I told him that I would share his story. Then Sam said that I broke Eric's heart, but I never left him, not really. I stayed with him to make sure he was okay, and I made sure that he would meet someone who would give him the happiness that he deserved. I said, I know, I saw. Sam smiled and said, be sure to tell them that they are meant to be different. They are meant to be loud, and they are meant to be bright, and they are meant to be happy. And then Sam was gone, and I hadn't seen Sam since, until today when we prepared for filming, and I saw him again. But in truth, there haven't been many weeks in which I don't think about Sam at least once or twice. Sam wanted his story told. He wanted you to hear his story. Sam should never have been told to change or been made to feel the way that he did. Sam should have been celebrated. Sam wanted me to emphasize that he never let anyone in when it came to how much he was hurting with what he was experiencing at home with his family. Eric knew some, but only what Sam would let him see. Sam never told anyone that he was struggling so much internally with how his parents treated him at home. So if you're struggling with any of these issues, or you're having suicidal thoughts, please just don't go through it alone. You're not a burden. People want to help you. The moment you talk about it, it gets lighter. And that weight that you're carrying gets lighter when you share it with someone. Sometimes I worry that talking about how great the afterlife is, that it kind of diminishes how wonderful this life is that we're living in, and how incredible it is. And there's this incredibly toxic thing going around in the world of spirituality that you don't need to fight, and that some even say that death is a reset because reincarnation is real. Listen to this now. I don't care if you hear it from me, or if you hear it from Sam, or if you hear it from guides. It's not a reset. The thought that you sometimes have that life is too hard and it isn't going to get better, I want you to tell that voice to shove it. That voice is not you. You have been hurt and you have been wounded, but that is not you. You are a beautiful mess. You are so much more than your pain. You are a warrior filled with resilience. You are meant to live until every last breath your lungs can take. You are so much bigger than what is happening right here in this microscopic moment. And I know it sometimes feels huge and heavy, but it is temporary. When you're tired of hurting and you feel like you're breaking, that is when you need to fight that voice. That is when you need to know that you are perfect, just as you are. And better days are coming. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not this week, but they are coming. And you are meant to be here to see those better days. You are powerful beyond measure, and you are a beautiful creator. So fight that voice when it rises to the surface. You are meant to be here. You have so much left to do, and you're going to change people's lives for the better in ways that you can't even imagine today. You will become a beacon of light for others. And if you feel alone right now, that's okay. You have not even met the people who are going to love you. If you allow them to do so, they will love you so deeply that you can't even fathom it right now. You have not even met the people who are going to see you, truly see you. So shove that voice away. It isn't you. Shove those inner demons away who are tearing your heart to shreds. Take a breath and pause. And know that there is so much more that you are meant to experience in this life. There are people out there who are just waiting to find you and meet you and love you and understand you and be grateful to just have you in their lives. You are meant to be here. So please stay here and see what else this life has in store for you, because this moment is temporary and changes will come. I want to bring this back to Sam's experience, his specific experience, which is a shared one for many, an experience of being LGBTQIA+. You know, if you have a personal problem with this as a parent, keep that to yourself until you learn what unconditional love really means. If your child bears their bleeding heart to you in that way, in their moment of coming out, and you take advantage of that vulnerability and that openness, and you hurt them, how dare you? How dare you harm a beautiful soul in that way? How dare you let your insecurities become someone else's pain? There isn't a world in which God has ever said that mutual consensual love is wrong. That is only the interpretation of humans whose fear and ego rule their faith. When you have an authentic personal connection to the source from which you come, you will know that love is exactly what we are meant to embody and celebrate. Love is what is needed most. So do no harm. Don't you dare harm those sweet babies. If they come to you in the way Sam came to his dad, it is your job to love them unconditionally. You should be so lucky to be given a soul capable of love, capable of shining their bright light into this world. The world needs more of that. As a parent, it is your job to protect them. Let them know that they are safe and that they are loved. That is your job. If you find yourself in this place where Sam was with his dad, give him a hug. Tell him you love him and keep on doing this life as the amazing parent that you are. And if you have had this experience and you did it right, you showed them that there isn't a world in which who they love would ever change the way that you see them. Thank you. And if you came out and you were not met with love and celebration, I am truly sorry. This means that your light was so brilliant that it blinded and burned those people who are living in a dark and cold place. And the only thing that they knew how to do, what to do, was to push you away out of fear. Do not let them dim your light. Do not let their insecurities and fear change you. You are perfect just the way that you are. Don't let anybody change you or make you feel lesser than. If you haven't found your people yet, you will. Give it time. You will find people who see you and love you just the way that you are. You were born this way. We were born this way. And we are meant to be here together. So thank you for giving this world your light. Hear Sam's words. He wanted you to hear his story so that you're inspired to stay here. And keep going until you wake up one day and you are given the love that you are meant to know. So I'll close with Sam's words. Sam said, "Don't ever forget that love is meant to be celebrated. This too will pass. You are meant to be here. And you will find your place in this world where you are accepted and loved just the way that you are. Keep going." So thank you for taking the time to hear about Sam's experience. As always, I am humbled and I'm honored to be able to do this work with Spirit, and I'm eternally grateful to the guides and the angels and the source from which we all came. My name is Gabrielle Gardner, and this has been another episode of Remarkable Spirit. Please join us again next time to see how Remarkable Spirit is all around us.